Who's the GOAT of your favourite sport? Some sports have an easier answer to this than others. Wayne Gretzky has nearly 1,000 points more than the next best on the NHL's all-time points list, and most would consider him to be the GOAT. Then you have sports like golf, where there's a lot of people that would consider Tiger Woods to be the GOAT, but some would claim that Jack Nicklaus has him beat with 3 more major titles. What about sports like tennis, where the argument is mostly between Federer, Nadal and Djokovic for the title of the GOAT? I do feel at this stage Djokovic has the lead in this battle, but even that may be a controversial thing to say. Now we're moving towards more contentious debates, ones you've probably had with your friends down the years. So when people talk about the NBA GOAT debate, they're usually talking about Michael Jordan and LeBron James. I'm not even going to offer my opinion on this because I don't watch enough basketball, but I think it's fair to say each side of the debate has been explored thoroughly. What about the most popular sport in the world? Not cricket or Formula 1 or field hockey, I'm talking about football. Who's the best football player to ever live? Previously people would have said Pele or Maradona, with some fringe picks like Johan Cruyff or George Best thrown in the mix. In the last 20 years there have been 2 names that have dominated football and changed the debate for who is the greatest of all time forever. Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi have achieved more in their footballing careers than most could ever possibly dream of. They were both the main men in any team they played in and have inspired generations of footballers who watched them over the years. But who is better? It's one of the great sporting debates. I think it's fair to say that viewing Messi as the best player of all time is the more socially acceptable opinion at this stage after the World Cup win in 2022. Many posts on social media at the time declared the debate to be over. However, what is right is not always popular, and what is popular is not always right. I believe that Ronaldo is the greatest footballer of all time. I know there's probably a lot of people rolling their eyes or about to click off the video, but stick around for the next... oh god, this video really did grow arms and legs. Well, stick around for the next however long and hopefully you'll see a bit more of where I'm coming from. You see, my aim with this video is not to try and convince Messi fans that I'm objectively correct that Ronaldo's better than him. All I'm trying to do with this video is show that it's not a ridiculous thing to believe that he is. All too often you hear the opinion, if you believe Ronaldo's better than Messi, then you don't watch or know football.
If you don't think it's Messi, you don't understand football. I think it really is that simple. But I think if you're talking about footballer, who is the better footballer, it can only be Messi. And if you say Ronaldo, I don't think you understand football.
I know this is the oldest argument of all time, but if you think Messi and Ronaldo are in the same conversation, you shouldn't watch. Football is maybe not for you. Maybe there's something else for you.
That's a bit harsh though, Grell, isn't it? Yeah. In the debate that
they're not in the same conversation. They're literally not in the same conversation. Actually, when did you know?
I could easily go down the route of insulting people who say things like this by asking them to do a height reveal, but that won't get us anywhere fast. Instead, I'm going to break down the argument into a number of key areas where I believe you can make a compelling case for Ronaldo being better than Messi. If at the end of the video you still think Messi is a better footballer, then that's 100% fine. I'm merely putting forward the case that Ronaldo being the GOAT is a reasonable stance to take. Okay, so this is where the majority of the rest of the video hinges on. I think that the reason there's such a divide between Messi and Ronaldo fans, with one believing that the other must be trolling to have such an opinion, is because of differences in their answer to this question. What is it that makes someone a good footballer? My opinion is that a good footballer is someone who performs in such a way that their team is more likely to win the game. Pretty simple. The aim of football is to have more goals at the end of the game than the other team. My opinion is that the best footballer is the person who does that the best. I think the best way to showcase this would be to use some examples. When Vincent Kompany's Burnley side lost 3-0 on the opening day of the Premier League season to reigning champions Manchester City, Will Unwin of The Guardian wrote, Vincent Kompany and his players would be in the Premier League for the long term. You see, this wasn't the Burnley side of old who would lump the ball long and hope for the best. Kompany, inspired by his previous manager Pep Guardiola, had instilled in his players a style of play which focused on possession and passing styles. Just look at this article from the Football Analyst. It goes into fine detail on how Kompany's Burnley side utilised low build-up to question the opposition centre-backs, forcing them to make decisions and create numerical superiority, or high build-up to create numerical advantages in midfield areas. And what about changing formation to create new formations to confuse opponents and create numerical advantages in different areas? If that's not enough for you, using the goalkeeper should do the trick. Using the goalkeeper in the build-up will create numerical superiority that... Wait a minute. A lot of these tactics just seem to be moving players around to create overloads. Yeah, overlaps to create a 2v1, many players in the box, distance marking to create numerical superiorities, defensive transitions to create numerical advantage, and a whole section called numerical advantages. Anyway, the article ends with the assertion that his innovative tactics have transformed Burnley into a more versatile and unpredictable team. This analysis underscores the impact of Kompany's tactical understanding and ability to instill a new footballing philosophy in a team, paving the way for a future filled with strategic brilliance and competitive excellence. Fast forward to the end of the season and they were relegated with a club record low points tally of 24 for the season. The Independent ranked this season as one of the Premier League's worst ever relegations. So why am I bringing up Vincent Kompany and Burnley? We'll compare how his Burnley side performed with Sean Dyche's Burnley side. Yes, Sean, penalty versus Middlesbrough, Will Still, Luton away end, Szoboszlai international free kick, Boxing Day 1963, dog in a Rangers jersey, Dyche. It wouldn't be a Ronaldo versus Messi video without mention of his 2016-2017 Burnley side. In all seriousness though, Dyche managed to finish 16th with this newly promoted Burnley side in the 2016-2017 season. Dyche had his team focus on long balls to target men like Ashley Barnes and Sam Vokes going forward, while being defensively very difficult to break down. So which team was better? One team was applauded for their attempts to play good football despite lack of personnel, while the other was described as playing Brexit ball or seen as playing a lower form of football. At the end of the day though, Kompany's Burnley side were relegated, while Dyche's stayed in the league and went on to finish 7th and even play in the Europa League. Football is a sport where the objective is to win games, stay in the league, win trophies, etc. That's why it's my opinion that Sean Dyche's team of 2016-2017 is a better footballing team than Vincent Kompany's of 2023-2024. But I know there's a lot of people who probably disagree with that. There's a growing sentiment among football fans that games should be decided by a mixture of possession, XG, field tilt, expected threat and defensive action height, rather than who scored the most goals. So for all the West Ham fans out there, it's not all doom and gloom. You guys actually stayed in the Premier League if you consult the XG table, and that's got to count for something, right? And for Sunderland fans, not to put a dampener on your season, but you guys actually would have gone down if it was based on XG. I know that a lot of Sunderland fans would be very disappointed with their season now hearing that, but look, always something to build on for next year. Some people say if you think Ronaldo's better than Messi, you just don't watch football. That sounds like a damning statement on the surface, but what does it actually mean? If you mean that Messi has amazing utilisation of pockets of space, the tight dribbling of a god and passing to fit, then yeah, Messi wins that one. He's poetry in motion. But football isn't a freestyle competition. You don't get extra points for elegance or flair, even if your stickman silhouette does look more efficient. This is actually a really good video. You should go and watch it. It's about moments, impact and results. So let's talk about another person who's not Messi or Ronaldo. I promise we're getting there soon. Erling Haaland. Haaland is a player who's been criticised in the lamestream media for having a level of general play equivalent to that of a League 2 player.
For his general play, for such a player, it is so poor. Not just today, I think he has to improve that. He's almost like a League 2 player. That's the way I look at him, his general play has to improve.
But when he joined Man City in 2022, they won the treble for the first time in the club's history. This obviously included a win in the Champions League, a competition City had failed to win for the previous decade, while arguably being the best team on the eye for a number of years. Haaland was all about impact and delivering when it counts. Ronaldo's made a career of doing the same. He's got killer instinct, the will to win, the ability to grab a game and turn the tide over and over again. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Don't get me wrong, Messi's an incredible player. In my opinion, he's clearly number 2 of all time. And to be fair, both he and Ronaldo are light years ahead of the rest. As far as I can see it, anyone trying to argue otherwise isn't coming to the debate in good faith. But here's where I stand. I don't value aesthetics the same way others do. Style's great, but for me, results are what matter. It's about what you actually do, not how pretty it looks. That's the lens I use when talking about greatness in football. And it's through that lens that I've come to the conclusion that Ronaldo is the greatest footballer of all time. In the rest of this video, I'm going to break down exactly why, point by point, not to force anyone to agree with me, but to show you that I'm not just some fanboy. It's a reasoned case built on impact, legacy, results. Even if you don't walk away convinced, I hope you'll at least see that it's a completely legitimate argument to make. Okay, so from now on, we should just be talking about Ronaldo and Messi. No more tangents. Emmanuel Eboué joined Arsenal to little fanfare in the 2004-2005 season. However, I'm joking.
I was just kidding! Come on, you guys know I was just kidding, right?
Let's take a look at their club careers under the microscope. Ronaldo started his career with Sporting Lisbon at 17 years of age. It was a short-lived career in Portugal as he caught the eye of Manchester United and Sir Alex Ferguson in a friendly match in 2003. He signed for United for 12 million and the rest is history. He moved from United to Real Madrid, Madrid to Juventus, Juventus back to United, and finally United to Al Nassr. Messi's club career is a bit more straightforward in terms of moves, with the first 18 seasons spent in Barcelona. See, Wikipedia would tell you 17 seasons, but the official Barcelona website says 18, and you just wouldn't get this level of research from Sky or BT. He then moved to French giants PSG before leaving in 2023 for Inter Miami. Let's not beat around the bush with this. Ronaldo started in the Portuguese league, not the footballing powerhouse that Messi walked into with Barcelona in 2004. He moved to the Premier League, widely regarded as the most physical and demanding league in the world, and led a United side to 3 league titles in a row, a feat only achieved once before and since in the Prem. He won the Ballon d'Or as a Premier League player, which has also only been achieved once before and since. People don't want to acknowledge this, but Manchester United were not the best team in England when Ronaldo arrived. They didn't win the Premier League in his first 3 seasons at the club. Messi, on the other hand, walked into a Barcelona side many would consider to be up there as one of the greatest club sides ever created. They won the Champions League in his first full season playing with the senior side, and he wasn't even a major player in that success. Adding a player of his quality to an already stacked squad was a cheat code. This Barcelona side had the core of the great Spain team that won Euro 2008, World Cup 2010 and Euro 2012. This means they didn't taste elimination in an international competition for 2,914 days straight. When Ronaldo joined Madrid, this great Barcelona team were bordering on unstoppable, but he saw this as a challenge and he wasn't going to shy away from it. People like to talk about goals per game a lot, and I think this is a flawed stat for a number of reasons. But if people do want to go down that road, then I think it's an interesting stat to point out that Ronaldo actually had a marginally better goals to game ratio when compared to Messi while they were both in the Spanish league. Or how Ronaldo scored 20 goals versus Barcelona in 9 seasons, while Messi scored 26 versus Real Madrid in 17 seasons. I can actually feel people typing in the comments about how the Madrid team Ronaldo joined were actually a super team, but that's certainly not what the narrative was at the time. You have to remember, Manchester United had just been to 2 Champions League finals in a row.
In the morning newspapers again today that this might be Ronaldo's last game for Manchester United. Who better to put that question to him and others than the man himself?
And for me, there's an argument as the best player in the world right now. I think he proved that in the previous semi-final. Does he stay or does he go to Real Madrid? Why would he want to go to Real Madrid? How many years, and it is years, are Real Madrid behind Manchester United as from this moment? How many years will it take Real Madrid to get where Man United are now, with the real possibility that Man United are going to get better than where they are right now in the next 3 to 5 years?
Ronaldo's move to Juventus is hard to paint as a massive challenge. Juve were 7 times in a row Serie A champions and not looking like stopping. However, I think that this move showed more adventure than Messi's move to PSG. He finally had the chance to prove the haters wrong and go and play in England with Manchester City or Chelsea, 2 of the few teams that could maybe afford his giant wage budget. However, he chose the easiest option possible with a move to a super team that had his old friend Neymar and a young phenom in Kylian Mbappe. It's not even just how bad Liga is, and it is bad. It's the gap between PSG and everyone else in the league. People used to regularly say that PSG's major downfall in Europe was that they never once got tested until they played someone good in the Champions League. The league is so bad, in order to get a competitive game you had to cross international borders. Side note, since I've written this section, Liga have literally postponed a game between 1st and 2nd in the league so PSG can have a better chance of getting through in the Champions League. Very serious league behaviour. When you compare how Messi and Ronaldo got on after leaving Barca and Real respectively, the stats can be an interesting read. In 3 seasons playing for Juventus, Ronaldo scored 101 goals. In 2 seasons for PSG, Messi scored 32. I know, again, there'll be some people screaming in the comments that at this point in their careers, Ronaldo was an out-and-out goal scorer, while Messi was a false deep line, playmaking, inverted regista futbolista. But even when you compare goals and assists, it's 129 for Ronaldo in 3 seasons, and 67 for Messi in 2 seasons. Comparing the leagues too, Serie A is a league known for its tough defending, with many teams being difficult to break down. PSG in Liga are the type of team your mate who hasn't played football since under 12s claims he could score 10 goals for up front if he started every game and he was on penalties. When Ronaldo decided to head back to a struggling Manchester United and try and pull them out of the dirt, he once again provided many clutch moments and big goals to rescue United. Rumours at the time would suggest that Ronaldo had interest from Manchester City, who were probably only missing an out-and-out striker to claim their first Champions League title. Faced with this temptation, Ronaldo chose the harder road and went to try and return the club of his formative footballing years to past glory. The risk did not pay off, with many claiming Ronaldo was the problem, despite his goal-scoring record at the time. These opinions were proven to be correct, with Ronaldo leaving to pave the way for a golden generation at Old Trafford. The signings brought in to replace Ronaldo's goal-scoring output have exceeded all expectations by winning the Golden Boot every season since his departure, and United are on course for another Premier League title by a record margin. The point here is that I can't see Messi ever choosing to make this difficult move back to Manchester if he was in Ronaldo's position. You may disagree, but we'll never know the answer, and I'd argue the evidence supports my view. The reality is, Messi has never, in his entire career, played for a team that wasn't just as good, if not better, than his opponent. Well, maybe that isn't exactly true. He did join Inter Miami when they were bottom of the league, and now they've won the MLS Cup. If you're someone who thinks that both the Saudi Pro League and the MLS are cut below the top 5 leagues and don't take achievements in either as particularly serious when it comes to viewing both of their careers as a whole, then you can skip to this timestamp, because we agree. If you believe that what Messi has done in the MLS is a fairy tale, while Ronaldo is playing in a sandy Sunday league, then stick around. So a few points on the MLS. Inter Miami didn't just sign Messi. In that same transfer window, they also signed Busquets and Jordi Alba from Barcelona. Then in the winter, they signed Luis Suarez. The team that Messi started playing with in Inter Miami compared to the team now are two very different teams. In fact, here's the team and bench for Messi's first game in the MLS versus the New York Red Bulls, and here's the Inter Miami team for the first game of the 2025 season where they won the MLS Cup. Only 3 of the original players have kept their place in the starting team. Fast forward to the end of the season and the number of players becomes 0. This team is 100% different from this team, apart from Messi, Alba and Busquets. Taking into account the 20-man squad, only 3 of the original squad have hung on. But let's look at this again. So Messi arrives with 2 of his ex-Barcelona teammates and wins the league's cup. Pretty great start getting some silverware. Inter Miami then go from 14th in the league to 14th in the league. They didn't get any better that year. But Messi only played in 6 games that season, so that actually makes sense. What doesn't make sense in this Messi saved Inter Miami narrative is that they won the league the very next season, and Messi only played the full 90 minutes 15 times. He wasn't even in the squad through injury or international duty for 15 of the games. So there's a lot more to this than maybe meets the eye. I think the overall point I'm hovering around is that the MLS may currently be the most overrated sports league in human history. Ronaldo joined Al Nassr, and people have been right to point out that this is in fact a step down from the top 5 European leagues. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think the Saudi League is better than the Premier League. What I am going to tell you is that the Saudi League has better teams and better players than the MLS, and I don't believe it's particularly close. Firstly, just from a purely qualitative perspective, there have been multiple examples showing that the teams in the Saudi Pro League are just better than the MLS. Inter Miami played 2 games in Saudi Arabia in 2024, losing both. They lost 4-3 to an Al Hilal side who did not have Neymar, Banu or Koulibaly available. They then got routed 6-0 by an Al Nassr side without Ronaldo playing. Then, more recently, we have the Club World Cup. Unsurprisingly, Messi and Inter Miami got beaten very easily by the first good team they played in PSG 4-0. Interestingly, Al Hilal of Saudi Arabia managed to beat Manchester City of the Premier League 4-3 in a knockout game, and they also drew with Real Madrid 1-1 in the group stages. Even just looking at the way a player's form changes when they join an MLS team from a top 5 league should be enough of a signal as to how bad the quality is. For example, Heung-min Son played 46 games for Tottenham in the 2024-25 season and scored 11 goals. He then moved to LAFC in the MLS and scored 12 goals in 13 games. Thomas Muller scored 1 goal in 30 Bundesliga appearances for Bayern Munich in the 2024-25 season. He scored 7 goals in 7 MLS games for the Vancouver Whitecaps. Lionel Messi scored 22 goals in 58 Ligue 1 games. He has scored 50 goals in 53 MLS games at the time of me getting these stats. Finally, let's talk about how deeply unserious certain aspects of the MLS are. Number one being that Messi is reportedly paid a cut from the MLS season pass you can get from Apple as the official MLS streaming platform. Now that sounds like it makes sense considering he's bringing so many eyes to the league. Then put it in the context of the Premier League and try imagining BT or Sky giving Salah or Haaland a cut of the viewership money. Another fun story from the MLS is when they moved a Columbus Crew game versus Inter Miami from Columbus to Cleveland so they could use a larger capacity stadium for more people to be able to see Messi. Again, sounds reasonable through the MLS lens trying to promote the game in America, but if you imagine it in a big league context, it becomes clearly ridiculous. Imagine Swansea got back into the Premier League and were meant to play Manchester United at home, but the Premier League moved the game to the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff so more Welsh people could watch Harry Maguire. In reality, the MLS and the Saudi Pro League both aren't up there with the top 5 European leagues, no matter how much either side want to believe it. However, I do think people brush aside Ronaldo's achievements in Saudi Arabia as stat padding in a lesser league, but when Messi plays well for Inter Miami, he's back in the Ballon d'Or conversation. And look, I know there are some reasonable people out there who already know this, but I couldn't not include it from what I've seen online. Overall, this is a case of flexibility. Ronaldo has been better at adapting. He can still perform even when the players around him aren't, and he's not afraid to make a career move that may not work out or will challenge him. I think Sir Alex Ferguson said it best.
Ronaldo could play for Millwall, Queen's Park Rangers, anyone, Doncaster Rovers, and score a hat-trick in a game. I'm not sure Messi could do it, because Ronaldo's got 2 feet, quick, great in the air, brave. Messi's brave, of course. I think Messi's a Barcelona player. You know what I mean?
Yeah, suits the style.
Might know a thing or two about football, that guy. I think this take's aged remarkably well. Over his career, Ronaldo's changed his position, his league and his style, and he's always found a way to perform. When Messi left Barcelona, the drop in performance at PSG showed his relative lack of adaptability. He moves to America and builds a whole new team with ex-Barcelona and current Argentina players to play the way that he needs in order to perform. If you don't believe Sir Alex Ferguson, maybe this guy will convince you.
Continuo a dizer que é mais difícil ser Cristiano do que é ser Messi. Vou-te dizer. O Messi cresceu na equipa onde joga, com os companheiros com que joga. O Cristiano estava em Inglaterra, meteram-no aqui numa equipa e ainda por cima meteram-no numa equipa que era uma equipa perdedora. Teve que crescer nos últimos 2 anos com esta equipa que foi sendo formada. Joga a 9 ou a 9,5. Anda ali, naqueles 50 metros quadrados, e ali a distância para a baliza é mais pequena, o trabalho defensivo é menos intenso, o outro joga de banda. Ala, é um ala. Como é que um ala marca tantos golos como um 9? Um ala que defende.
People argue that we don't need to see Messi in the Premier League because his record against English clubs in Europe is so good. Well, if we follow that logic through, he played 15 games and scored 11 goals against French clubs while playing for Barcelona. That means that during his time in the French league in his first season, he should have scored 19 goals in his 26 games. He actually scored 6. Also, in the next season his numbers improved, but he was still below the number expected based on this logic. Taking into account his entire time in the French league, he scored just over half the number of goals you would expect if this logic was the case. Messi's played his international football for Argentina, winning the Copa America on 2 occasions, the World Cup in 2022 and the Finalisma. Ronaldo's international career has taken place in a Portugal jersey, with a European Championship win and 2 Nations League titles under his belt. Now, let's have an open and honest discussion about these achievements and go through the history of how they've been framed. I think we can all agree that winning the World Cup is a major achievement in football, regardless of which country you do it with. However, if you were putting an achievement like this on a difficulty scale, then maybe you'd put winning the World Cup with Germany or Brazil on the right hand side of the screen, at the relatively easy section. Then here at the far left hand side you have things which are much more difficult, like say winning the Euros with a country like Scotland, Bulgaria or Romania. So Messi winning the World Cup and Copa America with Argentina and Ronaldo winning the Euros and Nations League with Portugal have to fit on this difficulty spectrum somewhere. Let's have a look at the challenge of each. Argentina have a population of 45.5 million people, making them the 35th most populated country in the world. Now, population isn't everything. If it was, India would have more than 0 World Cup appearances. Footballing culture and history of success plays a large part too. Argentina pre-Messi had won the World Cup on 2 occasions, having only failed to qualify once. Before Messi, Argentina had won 14 Copa America titles, with no qualification process in place. So before Messi played for Argentina, they had won 37% of Copa Americas they entered, and 14% of World Cups they qualified for. During Messi's playing career, he has won 20% of World Cups and 28% of Copa Americas he's participated in. So slightly better in the World Cup and slightly worse in the Copa America. Overall, he's batting at around the average for an Argentina team. Then you have Ronaldo in Portugal. Portugal has a population of 10.5 million, making them the 93rd most populated country in the world. Before Ronaldo started his senior playing career, Portugal had only qualified for the World Cup and the European Championships 3 times each. They had never won either competition. This means that before Ronaldo started playing for the Portuguese national team, they were less successful in major tournaments than Scotland, Bulgaria and Romania. It may be hard to imagine because Portugal have qualified for every major tournament possible since Ronaldo started to play for the national side, but Portugal do not have a rich footballing tradition pre-Ronaldo. So, pre-Ronaldo, Portugal qualified for 19% of World Cups and 27% of Euros. And again, they had never won either competition. After Ronaldo started playing for Portugal, they had qualified for 100% of World Cups and European Championships with 1 win in the Euros. Portugal, with Ronaldo in the side, have only been eliminated from 1 of 11 major tournaments in the group stages. An incredible achievement considering they qualified through a playoff for 4 of these tournaments. Ronaldo has inspired a generation of Portuguese footballers to the point that they are now considered one of the most complete teams in world football. I don't think there will be a true appreciation of just what Ronaldo has done until maybe 20 or 30 years down the line, when Portugal might return to their form of old. One thing is for sure though, as a country they now have the belief that they can take on the best, a belief that certainly wouldn't have existed before Ronaldo. Argentina will continue as normal after Messi retires. Of course this World Cup win will have inspired a generation. What World Cup win doesn't? But Spain are the only team to have won a singular World Cup since England in 1966. Once you've won one, it seems that that belief remains for good. I think it's important to point out that the standard of European football in general is just higher than everywhere else in the world. No matter what international tournament Ronaldo takes part in, he will always have multiple world-beating sides in the competition to overcome. Of the 20 semi-finalists in the World Cup between 2006 and 2022, 15 were from Europe and 4 were from South America. In fact, the World Cup following 2016, when Ronaldo won the Euros, had 4 European semi-finalists. In this era, winning the European Championships is the second most difficult achievement possible. Messi has played in an era where Brazil have been lacklustre at best, and to say he hasn't exactly capitalised would be a slight understatement. In 2015 and 2016, Argentina lost the final of the Copa America to Chile, a country had never won the competition before. They failed to score a goal in both games and Messi missed his penalty in the shootout in 2016. Now this was a decent Chile side, don't get me wrong, but the traditionally strong South American sides of Brazil and Uruguay were both eliminated before the semi-finals. The other 2 semi-finalists were Peru and Paraguay in 2015 and Colombia and the USA in 2016. To not win the competition as Argentina when these are the final 4 teams left in the competition is a failure on both occasions. We also have to talk about the Nations League. Now, am I going to sit here and say that the Nations League is as important as winning the Euros, the World Cup, or the Copa America? No. But do I think the Nations League is a glorified friendly competition? Also no. Actually, you know what? You gotta say what you think. The Copa America can be harder to win than the Nations League, especially if you have to play the hardest teams like Brazil, Uruguay, or Argentina on the way. However, it is my opinion that it was a greater achievement for Portugal to win the Nations League in 2025 than when Argentina won the Copa America in 2024. I also think Ronaldo performed better than Messi when it comes to the 2 tournaments. Let's look at the teams and the numbers here. Ronaldo scored 8 goals in 9 games in the Nations League, including goals in the quarter-final, semi-final and final against Denmark, Germany and Spain respectively. That's one team just outside the top 20 in the world and 2 inside the top 10. Messi, on the other hand, faced Canada, world number 48, Chile, world number 40, Ecuador, world number 30, Canada again, still world number 48, and then Colombia, world number 12 in the final. Messi scored 1 goal against Canada in the semi-final and missed a penalty against Ecuador in the quarter-final. This isn't the Chile team of 2015-2016 we're talking about, by the way. This Chile team isn't going to the World Cup, having finished dead last in South American qualifying behind Peru, Venezuela and Bolivia.
Messi missed Argentina's first penalty in the shootout versus Ecuador. Statistically, this means Argentina would only have had a 20% chance of going on to win the match. Argentina won the shootout in spite of Messi's miss. Keep this in the context that Argentina are also the world number 1 team, so playing for the best team in the world against far weaker opposition, he performed worse. But I'm expected to sit here and say that it's more of an achievement because what? Sometimes you have to play Brazil to win it? This may seem extremely harsh on a guy who won an international tournament for his country. And you know what? It probably is. He's 36 and he doesn't have anything to prove. The contrast is crazy though between how this victory was framed compared to the Nations League. And I've seen all the talk online that the Nations League is a glorified friendly competition and no one cares about it, or the players weren't even trying that hard. My brother in Christ. The rhetoric online was that Lamine Yamal was going to win the Ballon d'Or off the back of this tournament before Portugal beat Spain in the final. This opinion also reeks of someone who didn't watch any of the matches. The atmosphere and clear effort put in by both teams in the semi-finals and finals show that this is just simply not the case. These are not the scenes of a friendly match.
The shoulder open up for him. What a finish! Mendes with his loop pass. Ronaldo!
I think it's important to point out that all 3 of Ronaldo's goals in the knockout phase were scored in the second half at a time when Portugal were going to be eliminated if the score stayed the same. He showed up when it mattered most. When Messi scored his 1 goal against Canada, they were already winning 1-0. I'm of the belief that the run Portugal went on to win the Nations League playoffs is a greater achievement than Argentina's Copa America win in 2024. Make no mistake, Portugal would not have won the Nations League without Ronaldo. They just wouldn't have. Argentina could easily have won the Copa America without Messi. Looking at World Cup qualifiers, Ronaldo has 41 goals and 13 assists for Portugal in 50 games, while Messi has 36 goals and 13 assists for Argentina in 72 games. Now, you might make the point, well, Portugal get to play against small teams like the Faroe Islands in qualification, so Ronaldo can just farm goals. Okay, that's fair enough. How many of Messi's goals in South American qualifiers did Messi score against Brazil? What about competitive games against Brazil in total? 8 games, 708 minutes played against Brazil. How many goals? Sure, get back to me on that one. Actually, just while we're on that point, when you compare how many goals each player has against top nations at tournaments, you see that Ronaldo has a much better scoring record against top nations. So this stat is only counting the World Cup, Copa America and Euros, and the rankings are from the time at which they played the team, not the ranking they are now. In their careers, Messi has scored 4 goals in major tournaments versus top 10 FIFA ranked nations, and 7 goals against top 20 ranked nations. Ronaldo, on the other hand, has scored 9 goals against top 10 ranked nations and 12 goals against top 20 ranked nations. Someone might point out that Ronaldo has more chance to play top ranked nations because he plays in the Euros, and to that I say, thank you for making my point for me. It is harder to win the Euros than the Copa America. Comparing the goals scored for their nations in total, Ronaldo has 143 compared to Messi's 115. But how do they break down? Looking at these pie charts, you can see most of Ronaldo's goals are made up of qualifiers for major tournaments. Now, he has played more qualifier matches, but even then, his goals per game, you know that stat that Messi fans love so much, is much higher in qualifiers. But what's this large chunk of goals that make up nearly half of Messi's international goals? Oh, international friendlies. I see, 52 of his 115 goals for Argentina have been scored in friendlies. That's interesting. This is compared to just 22 out of 143 for Ronaldo. Let's have a look at all Messi's international friendly goals since 2020. 18 goals in 13 games. 1 opponent ranked inside the top 60 teams in the world. There's no way I can end this section without acknowledging the World Cup win in 2022. I know you're probably wondering how I can possibly respond to something like that in this video. Pretty easy actually. Messi fans made the argument for me in 2019.
Also, over the whole history of the Copa America, it's been won by Brazil, Argentina or Uruguay 85% of the time. Messi has never scored against either of these teams in the Copa America. What do you think the percentage chance historically of Argentina making the Copa America final is? 30%? 50%? 62.5%. So he's been praised for winning a tournament which only has 2 other good teams, neither of which he has a goal against. There's genuinely an argument to be made that if Messi had never played for Argentina, they may have more Copa Americas than they do now. Now let's take a look at the premier competition in world club football, the UEFA Champions League. It's the competition with the best club sides in the world made up of the best players in the world. I think most would consider this to be the most difficult club competition in the world to win. In order to even get to the final, you might have to defeat the champions from several countries. The nature of club football also provides the ability for players to move to clubs with better chances of winning the competition, so they aren't stuck with substandard teammates as can be the case in the international scene. So let's break down the key moments of both players' Champions League runs over the years. I won't be able to dissect each season individually because I value my sanity, but I will try my best to cover as many of the key moments for both players as I can. I think as a Ronaldo fan, the best place to start when talking about Ronaldo in the Champions League is this moment. Real Madrid are in the semi-final of the 2012 Champions League versus Bayern Munich. Madrid lost the first leg 2-1 in Germany, and through early goals from Ronaldo and a reply from Robin, they had a penalty shootout between them and a return to Bayern's home stadium for the final. Ronaldo had already scored twice in normal time, including a penalty. His 25th consecutive successful spot kick. Could he make it 26? No. Madrid would go on to lose the shootout, and Ronaldo would have to ask the question of why he didn't produce in the big moment when his team needed him the most. Before this game, some people would have said Messi had enjoyed a better European career than Ronaldo. And you know what? They'd be right. Messi had 3 Champions League titles under his belt by 2012. In 2006, he only scored 1 goal in the campaign in a 5-0 win against Greek side Panathinaikos, and didn't play in the quarter-final, semi-final or final, but he did in fact receive a medal. His other 2 wins, he took centre stage against United. In 2009, he scored probably the most important headed goal of his career to sink Ronaldo in United's efforts to be the first team to win back-to-back Champions League titles. 2011 was again a bit of Messi magic to turn the tide towards the Catalan side following Rooney's equaliser. Ronaldo had a slow start to time in Europe with Manchester United. Exits to Porto in 2004, Milan in 2005, and no knockout round in 2006 echoes the point that United were not even the best team in England at the time, let alone Europe. 2008 was a breakthrough year in Europe for Ronaldo. A goal in the final versus Chelsea helped United to get over the line. A slip by Terry helping to save Ronaldo's blushes as he had his penalty saved by Cech in the shootout. Both players had some pretty iconic moments in the Champions League coming into the 2013 season.
This time, Pep is the boss. But here's Messi. Away from 2, 3, 4. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Too far for Ronaldo to think about it. Oh! Now Ronaldo. Long way out. What a goal!
They also both had a few moments that they probably wanted to forget. I think something happened here though. Something that changed the Champions League for over half a decade. Even if it's not clear straight away, I think Ronaldo was a different player after this moment. One who wasn't going to let the big occasion get to him anymore. In 2013, it looked like we were going to get an El Clasico final, with Real Madrid facing Dortmund and Bayern Munich facing Barcelona. How it actually transpired was that we got a full German final and Bayern were able to slay the demons of the previous season. I remember this tie as when Robert Lewandowski fully announced himself as one of the best in the world with 4 goals against Madrid in the semi-final of the Champions League. Ronaldo scored an away goal which would give Madrid fans some hope, but they just gave themselves too much to do and couldn't find the third they needed to progress. In 2014, Real Madrid were a different beast entirely. They steamrolled Schalke 9-2 on aggregate and beat last year's finalists Dortmund and Bayern 3-2 and 5-0 respectively. The final versus the other side of their city went right down to the end of normal time, but this Madrid team had the belief all the way to the dying seconds. I think Atleti hearts were understandably broken, and it wasn't surprising to see their downfall in extra time. Ronaldo's penalty to make it 4-1 left no doubt, and La Decima was complete. This was a historic UCL season with 17 goals for Ronaldo, the most of any player in history, a record which still stands to this day. Barcelona had a disappointing exit to Atletico in the semi-final. In 2015, Barcelona had put together the most potent attacking trio in the world
after the acquisition of Luis Suarez from Liverpool to join Messi and Neymar. Just like the Madrid team of the previous season, this Barcelona side would not bow to any challenger. They saw off Manchester City and PSG before getting revenge on Bayern. The final saw Barca win 3-1 against Juventus, a side who had just defeated Real in the semi-finals 3-2 on aggregate. At this stage, Messi now had 4 Champions Leagues to Ronaldo's 2, if you count 2006. Barcelona had assembled what looked to be one of the most lethal forward lines to ever exist in European competition. For Ronaldo, it was one step forward, one step back, between winning the UCL in 2014 and watching Barca take that crown in 2015. I don't think even the most staunch Real Madrid fans were expecting what came next. Over the next few seasons, Real Madrid put together one of the most dominant runs in the history of sports. No team had won the Champions League back-to-back since its rebrand from the European Cup in the 1992-1993 season. But they didn't just go back-to-back, they went back-to-back-to-back. One man emerged as absolutely central to everything Madrid did during this run, and that man was Ronaldo. As a fan watching, you knew he was always going to be there to bail Madrid out of trouble right when they needed it. 16 goals in 2016, 12 goals in 2017 and 15 goals in 2018 put him firmly as the top scorer in each of the 3 triumphs. During this time period, Barcelona tasted disappointing defeat to Atletico in 2016, Juventus in 2017 and Roma in 2018. 3 years later and Ronaldo had now won 5 UCLs compared to Messi's 4. But it wasn't just 3 years. Ronaldo had been the Champions League top scorer for the last 6 years in a row up to this point. In Europe's biggest club competition, no one was scoring more goals and more important goals than Ronaldo for over half a decade. I think that last loss versus Roma was the worst of them all for Messi and Barcelona. Having such a commanding lead and watching it fall away as your most bitter rival claims immortality must have been gut-wrenching. So the next season, before a friendly match against Boca Juniors in the Camp Nou, Messi spoke to the Barcelona fans over the loudspeaker and said,
Pero también es verdad que todos nos quedamos con la espinita de la Champions, de la eliminación por cómo fue más que nada. Así que hoy nosotros prometemos que este año vamos a hacer todo lo posible para que esa copa tan linda y tan deseada por todos vuelva a atacar otra vez en el Camp Nou.
We promise that we will do everything possible so that this beautiful cup, the Champions League, returns to Camp Nou again. Could this be the 2012 penalty miss versus Bayern moment for Messi and Barcelona? Ronaldo had made the switch to Juventus this summer, and while they beat Atletico in the last 16, they would fall to an Ajax side that probably considered themselves very unfortunate to not have gone all the way that season. But what about Barcelona? Could they come good on the promise to deliver the UCL back to the Camp Nou? Well, at the midpoint of their semi-final, you'd have said they were well on their way.
Corner taken quickly, Origi! Unbelievable! This is extraordinary!
If I had a nickel for every time Barcelona gave up a 3-goal lead in the first leg in this video so far, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's kinda crazy it happened twice. So yeah, 4-0 and they were out. A collapse of the greatest magnitude. But then again, when Ronaldo had his penalty saved in 2012, it took 2 years to return to Champions League glory. So coming into 2020, Messi and this Barcelona team would have been more motivated than ever to prove everyone wrong and reclaim the Big Ear trophy. After beating Napoli 4-2 on aggregate, they would face Bayern Munich in the quarters. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, there was a restriction on football, as there had been on every part of society. Therefore, it was decided that all the quarterfinals and semi-finals would be decided in one game rather than over the usual 2 legs. So if I told you that Barcelona scored 2 goals in this game, you'd probably be pretty confident that they'd have a good chance of getting through to the next round. Right? Oh dear. Yes, this was in one match. Not an aggregate 2-legged affair, one 90-minute game. The average number of goals scored in a Champions League game that season was 1.6. Bayern had scored 5 times that. This was the last main attempt by either Messi or Ronaldo to get their hands back on the biggest European title. Ronaldo's Juventus fell to Lyon in the quarter-final that season and to Porto in the 2021 season. He then moved back to Manchester, where Atletico in the round of 16 marked the end of the line. For Messi, 3 straight round of 16 eliminations to PSG, Real Madrid and Bayern Munich in 2021, 2022 and 2023 respectively marked the end of the line for him trying to get a 5th Champions League. I think these last 2 seasons will be particularly potent for Messi fans when it comes to UCL disappointments. He had a good enough squad to challenge based on their record before he arrived and after he left, but again, he couldn't find form when it mattered most. Ronaldo finished his Champions League career with 141 goals, while Messi had 129. Ronaldo also has the upper hand when it comes to the number of knockout goals in the Champions League, with 67 over his career compared to Messi's 49. While this is already a pretty impressive gap between the two players, when you split these goals into which stage of the competition they were scored in, it becomes even better reading for Ronaldo. More than half of Messi's 49 knockout goals came in the last 16, and only 8 in the semi-final/final. Looking at Ronaldo's numbers, we can see that just over 1/3 of his goals came in the last 16, and he has 17 goals in the semi-final and final. To put into context just how many UCL knockout goals Ronaldo has scored in his career, here are the teams he's outscored in the knockout stage between 2003 and 2004 when he played his first Champions League match, and 2021-2022 when he played his last. AC Milan, Juventus, Inter Milan, Manchester United, Arsenal, Atletico Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, Paris Saint-Germain, and Manchester City. Looking over it all, Ronaldo ended his time chasing the Champions League with 5 titles compared to Messi's 4. And I do feel saying 4 here is generous, but I'm trying to be fair. In these 5 title-winning seasons, Ronaldo tallied up 86 goal contributions, while Messi managed 47 in his 4 title-winning years. Some may say it's unfair to count 2006 in a stat like that because he barely contributed, but each to their own. I'm just pointing out that Sturridge played more minutes for Chelsea in 2012 than he did in 06 for Barca, but whatever. Ronaldo still holds the record for the most goals in a single UCL season despite the increase in the number of games played, and is still the competition's top goal scorer of all time. There's a reason why many people call him Mr. Champions League. I think one of Ronaldo's most underrated qualities is how he grew into a player who was completely comfortable carrying the full weight of expectation on his shoulders, both at the club and international level. With that came enormous responsibility, and as we've seen in the previous section, it's a weight that he's carried pretty well throughout his career. But taking that responsibility on yourself is one thing. True leadership is about inspiring the people around you when the pressure is at its highest. Take this moment from the Euro 2016 quarter-final penalty shootout between Portugal and Poland.
Anda bater, anda. Bates bem, perdemos que se foda, anda. Solidar, vai, solidar. Bates bem. Confiança, caralho. Volta aqui.
João Moutinho is visibly uneasy about stepping up to take a penalty. He stays away from the group discussion and he's clearly hoping that someone else will volunteer to take one. It's important to remember that the last time Portugal and João Moutinho were in this situation, he missed his penalty in the Euro 2012 semi-final versus Spain. This would be a pivotal moment in the shootout that Portugal would go on to lose. No doubt this was part of the reason why Moutinho would have been uneasy at the thought of taking a further high-pressure international penalty. But if you listen, it's not just what Ronaldo says to him, it's how he says it. You hit them well, if we lose, so be it. It's in God's hands now. So in the middle of this high-pressure shootout, Ronaldo doesn't make it about himself. He shifts the focus away from fear and towards confidence in stepping up to take the penalty. He lifts the pressure off his shoulders, reassures him, and gets him back in the right headspace to perform at the highest level. That, to me, is leadership. It's easy to carry yourself like a leader when you're winning. It's much harder when everything's on a knife edge, or you're losing. And in moments like this, Ronaldo didn't just lead by example, he actively pulled others with him. And when all was said and done, I'd say Moutinho was pretty happy Ronaldo went and found him to take that penalty. Now contrast that leadership with what we saw from Barcelona at half-time against Liverpool in 2019. Despite being 2 goals ahead on aggregate, the team looked broken. Jordi Alba was literally crying. The dressing room seemed shell-shocked, not composed. Now of course, you can't blame Messi for an individual player's emotions, but what was striking is that the entire team played the whole second half like they'd already lost. There was no sense of belief, no leadership, no rally, no fight back. And as the captain, some of that has to fall at Messi's feet. This wasn't a one-off collapse either. The Roma disaster the previous season, the humiliation against Bayern the year after, these show this wasn't just bad luck, it was a chronic mentality problem. This is just my opinion, but but I believe that if Ronaldo of 2015 to 2020 was in that Barcelona team, they wouldn't have collapsed in the same way. Ronaldo's career, especially during his later years at Real Madrid, was defined by carrying teams through adversity week after week, season after season. This isn't a knock on Messi's talent, it's a reflection of the different ways these two players led under pressure. A great example of this kind of leadership came before the 2017 Champions League final against Juventus. Even during the warm-up, you could see it. Ronaldo was setting the tone, leading the team with his energy, making sure everyone was focused and present in the moment. Then, when the whistle blew and the match started, he delivered a performance to match this. Real Madrid's mentality that night was rock solid. They weren't just technically brilliant, they were mentally unbreakable. And Ronaldo's ability to rise to the occasion, to lead by example when the stakes were highest, was a massive part of that. That's the difference, not just the goals, not just the trophies. It's about mentality, it's about leadership, and it's about impact. Now let's talk about the internet's favourite topic. Hate. Hate in football nowadays comes part and parcel, especially online. Have a footballer you like? Well, I can almost guarantee there's a Twitter account dedicated to their downfall, specialising in fail comps and notes app lists of all their mistakes in the game. I mean, it felt like there was a Rashford fail comp week after a week for a minute there.
To get a pimped out ride. You've got to pimp my ride.
I've got that Pimp My Ride music burned deep into my auditory cortex at this stage. There's a growing phenomenon of the hate watch, where people watch games where all the enjoyment is derived from the hatred of the other team. Now I can understand from a tribalistic point of view what's going on here. I'm not an idealist who believes you should take all the tribalism out of football. It's one of the things that makes football and other sports so great. I don't think that Tottenham fans are ever going to be cheering for Arsenal or that United fans are ever going to be cheering for City or Liverpool. However, and my memory might be slightly off on this one, in the late 2000s and early 2010s, I remember a time where you had a few teams that you disliked, but for the most part you didn't have a strong view one way or the other. Nowadays, it seems that every match that some fans watch that doesn't include their own team is a hate watch. I think that instead of picking a team that you want to win because you like them, it's become, who are you going to support because you dislike them least? I'm also aware that hate online is a moneymaker for a lot of people. Hate drives clicks and revenue for channels. I realise that some of you may point out that in this video I'm being quite critical of Messi. I'm trying to be as fair as I can where I can, and I'll reiterate again that I think he's the second best player of all time, and I obviously respect him as a player. But I'm making the argument in this video that I think Ronaldo is the best player of all time, and having this opinion is completely valid. The way that media and professional television networks speak about footballers is by and large much more respectful than you would get on an average Twitter feed. Sky Sports, BT Sports and the BBC will usually toe the line when it comes to calling out bad performances. This is unlike what we see in American sports, where players seem to be called out on a more personal level, and sports media in general has a larger focus on entertainment and generating sensationalistic headlines or takes.
Listen to everybody. Nobody believes in you. What are you prepared to do about it?
A change in the way football is spoken about was always going to originate across the Atlantic. The CBS coverage of the Champions League has been well received by the football community as a whole as far as I can see. The pundits seem to have been given more free rein to give their honest opinion on how teams and players are performing, which has created a really entertaining and popular dynamic. Even with this newfound freedom of expression, the opinions expressed by the pundits are always kept within a larger perimeter of reason. So the line of acceptability has been moved, but it hasn't been abolished entirely. I don't think there's a player in the history of football who's been as good as Ronaldo and received as much abuse both online and in the mainstream media as Ronaldo has. There's people out there with stupid opinions about Messi too, but I don't think it's as comparable to what Ronaldo has gone through. Some of you might not believe that, so let's actually take a look at the examples. Let's start with this clip from Irish TV during the 2008 Champions League campaign for Manchester United against Barcelona. After the game, Irish pundit Eamon Dunphy decided that he was unhappy with what he viewed as simulation by Ronaldo. Back in the late 2000s and early 2010s, football probably did have an emerging issue with diving and simulation, but this was far from being a Ronaldo issue and was more of a football-wide problem. In fact, looking back on this period, I think that Barcelona were probably known as being the team with one of the worst track records for going down easy under a tackle. Nevertheless, what does Mr. Dunphy have to say about Ronaldo on live television?
Ronaldo's performance tonight was a disgrace to football. Liam doesn't want me to say this because he'll get himself into trouble. It was a disgrace.
In what sense was it?
It was a disgrace. This fella Ronaldo is a cod. I don't care if he scores.
You can't
if he
say
scores,
that, given
I'm
all
telling
the
you,
scores
this was a big match.
I think even the host of the show realises that he's crossed the line here, but he doubled down on it.
With his hands up in the air, with cutaway shots of him there, he's a disgrace. He's a disgrace.
Ronaldo, the man who is on his way to a historic season where he will win everything he could possibly win, both individually and with his team, is a disgrace to football. During his time at Real Madrid, Cristiano Ronaldo had a celebration that he would bring out when he scored against Barcelona. Not the Sue, that came later. I'm talking about his Calma celebration. The first time he used this was against Barcelona in a 2-1 win at the Nou Camp in 2012. The celebration was effectively Ronaldo telling the Barcelona fans to calm down during such a heated match. Of course it was provocative, but did it deserve official criticism? I don't think so. But that's exactly what happened. The celebration was criticised by high-ranking officials in Spanish football as it was deemed too provocative and could possibly incite violence. I'm going to cut the Spanish Football Association some slack here, as a Deportivo La Coruña fan did actually lose their life in a fight earlier that season. However, it seems ridiculous to me that this was going to generate so much hate that people were going to get violent. When Messi took his shirt off and held it up at the Bernabeu to the fans, there was no similar reaction. Comparing this situation to when Ronaldo shushed the crowd not once but twice when United overturned the invincible Arsenal side adds to the silliness of the reaction to this celebration. During the 2021 Ballon d'Or ceremony, a picture of Ronaldo was put up beside Didier Drogba on the main screen in his underwear. This type of thing is weird, but sometimes award ceremonies have awkward moments like this to see the players' reactions, and it can actually be quite funny. Except for the fact that Ronaldo wasn't in attendance. There's just a bit of an underlying lack of respect here. In 2018, Ronaldo started off the season slow. He had a 5-match ban to serve at the start of the season and then struggled to find form before Christmas. He had only 4 La Liga goals to his name by the turn of the calendar year, and many had started to criticise. One such person was well-known Real Madrid hater and sportscaster Cristobal Soria. Following Ronaldo's slow start, he went on El Chicharito de Jugones? El Chicharito de Jugones. Following Ronaldo's slow start, he went on El Chicharito de Jugones, a famous Spanish late-night football talk show, with this to say.
¿Dónde está CR7? CR7, ¿dónde está? ¿Dónde está CR7? CR7, ¿dónde está?
This was taken up by fans in Spain who used the song to mock Ronaldo. It's important to note here that there is no direct comparison to this level of disrespect that Cristobal Soria shows to Ronaldo for Lionel Messi. On top of making this song about Ronaldo, he constantly accused Ronaldo of stat padding, called him Penaldo, and it circulated online that he brought in a physical washing machine to try and make the point that Ronaldo cleans up in games against lesser sides. That last part about the washing machine I couldn't find in any photos or videos, but I am rather limited in my ability to speak Spanish and find media there, so if anyone in the comments can find it, that would be great. Now, put yourself in Ronaldo's shoes for a minute. You've been one of the best players in the world for over a decade. You were the most important player for your team achieving a historic back-to-back Champions League success, and you've had a slow start in the league for the first time in years. I don't think it's unfair for Ronaldo to take on a siege mentality, considering the abuse for people like Messi in times of struggling form pale in comparison. I think it's important in this section to point out that for the majority of his career, Ronaldo has used this criticism to fuel him and prove himself over and over again. 2018 was no different, because after the Donde Está CR7 video was released in 2018, Ronaldo went on to have one of the most dominant second halves of a season anyone has ever seen in football, and secured a 3rd Champions League in a row. Let's talk about the return to Manchester. Ronaldo reportedly had interest from Manchester City, By basically every metric bar history, a far more appealing proposition than his old club on the red side of Manchester. Out of respect for his previous club and hoping to bring back the good times to Old Trafford, Ronaldo returned, and for a time, things were good. In his first season back, he scored 18 goals in the league, which was only 5 away from the Golden Boot. This is even more impressive considering he only started 27 out of the 38 league games. Then when we break down the impact of these goals, we see that 3 goals were scored while United were already ahead, 3 were scored when behind to close the gap or bring them back level, and 12 were scored while the score was even to put them ahead. United finished 6th in the league, which was at the time viewed as an extremely disappointing finish, considering that they had signed Ronaldo, Varane and Sancho in the summer. Take out Ronaldo's goals from this United side this season, and they would have finished 14th in the league. Now I know that's not how football works. If he wasn't there, then someone would have picked up the slack and scored the goals in his place. It's just that they probably wouldn't have scored as many important goals at important times. Even with age, he still had the ability to pop up just at the right moment when his team needed him the most. I remember that at this time, there was a feeling that Ronaldo was actually the problem at United. That if he was taken out of the side, then someone else would slot right in and do his job even better with a greater work rate. This would free up other players like Rashford and Sancho who could then show their full talents. I thought most of this talk was happening towards the end of the season and the start of his second season, but looking back at it, it was there from the very start. This video by Tifo Football by The Athletic is titled "The Problem Cristiano Ronaldo is Creating at Manchester United." In the video they talk about how Ronaldo was signed to score goals, but his work rate wouldn't be as high due to his age. And then they say that he's upholding his side of the agreement. They talk about United's midfield being bypassed too easily, and then Greenwood's poor pressing ability, before saying that Ronaldo, Bruno, Pogba, Sancho and Greenwood all can't play together. So the point here is that because Ronaldo has to start because he's scoring all the goals, these other players are being forced out of their best position, and so the team overall suffers. All through this time, the debate raged on as to whether he made United better or worse, while he continued to score important goals.
So you think it's a mistake, signing Ronaldo?
But Ronaldo was never going to get Man United back winning league titles.
What was the point in signing him? Come back.
Ronaldo, down towards Lingard. Ronaldo! Manchester United win!
The Champions League. They've got in the next round of the Champions League. How much do you think that's worth to the club? If you're looking at the business side of it, the glaze, your share price, that's what he's come back for.
Yeah.
Ronaldo! Oh, he's delivered again!
Goal scoring wise, yeah.
Definitely. All right, What's the game about? What's the game about?
We're the Man
You talk
United
about
in the
Salah.
league.
The game's about goals, Jamie.
Man United
the game's about goals. You said, and goals. Well, goals, that's what the game's about. Ian.
Rashford playing it in! There it is!
The situation at the club was anything but stable, with there being 3 managers at the club in this single season. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked in November. They probably watched the Tifo Football video. Michael Carrick took over for a couple of weeks before Ralf Rangnick came in as interim manager until the end of the season. Ronaldo decided that he wanted to leave Manchester United at the end of the 2021-22 season. The reason for this we don't know for sure, but it's probably fair to say that at 37 he knew he may only have a season or 2 left at his current level, so he may have wanted to step to a club who would be in next season's Champions League. We can deduce from what has come out since that he had offers from other clubs.
And as I said, he did have options to go. I know that for a fact.
But chose to stay at United following discussion with the club. The new Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag, however, had his own plans for how he would use Ronaldo. Or more importantly, not use him. For the first game of the season against Brighton, Ronaldo started on the bench. It would be a trend that would continue, as Ronaldo would only be selected to start 4 of 13 league games for United until his interview with Piers Morgan before the World Cup in Qatar. The debate around what was happening with Ronaldo at United was a major story in the Premier League at this time. Ronaldo not being started led to a lot of frustration for him as a player, and so there were many moments between him and the manager which got the media talking, like when he went down the tunnel early against Tottenham. There were 2 camps that formed around this time. Those who supported Ten Hag believing that his treatment of Ronaldo was fair, and those who believed that Ronaldo was being unfairly treated considering how important he was for the team in the previous season. I could go round and round in circles all day about this point, but it ended with Ronaldo and United coming to an agreement that Ronaldo would leave the club on Tuesday the 22nd of November. Oh great! With Ronaldo gone, I'm sure United went on to every success in the league and in Europe.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
With Ten Hag having such a large ongoing dispute with Ronaldo coming up to him leaving the club,
you'd have to hope the replacement he would go on to sign would help to fill in the gaps for the goals Ronaldo scored the previous season. Right? Right? Manchester United signed Wout Weghorst on loan from Burnley. I can't believe this video has had not one but 2 Burnley mentions already. In January of 2023. He would go on to play 17 games for United that season, scoring 0 goals. That's odd. I thought that anyone could fit into Ronaldo's position at striker and score the goals he scored. To be completely fair to Weghorst, he did score 2 goals in 32 games that season. At that rate, he'd only have had to have played 384 games that season to equal Ronaldo's record from the previous season. This could just be a fluke though. Let's look at who they brought in next. Rasmus Højlund. He managed to score 10 goals in 30 league games. Not great, but at least he's scoring some goals. And it's something to improve upon in the coming years. What's that? How many goals did he score in the Premier League the next year?
Højlund, get out of my club! Please, for what can you stop? Praying on America! He's the worst striker of all time, minus a trillion!
Okay, so maybe the strikers haven't had it easy since Ronaldo left. But what about the wide players? Yeah, these are the guys who Ronaldo was stunting the development of all this time. So let's see how they've thrived since. Since the start of the 2022-2023 Premier League season, Alejandro Garnacho has 17 Premier League goals in 115 Premier League games across 4 seasons. Anthony's really come into his own with 5 Premier League goals in 62 Premier League games since Ronaldo's left. And taking into account his goals in Spain, it's 18 league goals in 111 league games. Jadon Sancho's really starting to cook now that Ronaldo's left. 9 Premier League goals in his last 83 Premier League games, and 11 league goals in his last 97 league games when you take account of his stint back in Dortmund. Anthony Martial has 7 Premier League goals in his last 34 Premier League games. Taking into account his moves since, he has 15 league goals in his last 70 league games. The only one with a decent number of Premier League goals is Marcus Rashford with 30, but it's taken him 93 games to do it. Taking into account his move to Barcelona and its 38 league goals in 125 league games. Adding all of these together, you get 68 Premier League goals in 387 Premier League games, or 99 league goals in 518 league games from across the world. What a return. Let me remind you that Ronaldo scored 18 league goals in 27 league games. But let's not be too hasty in our assessment. As Gary Neville was so right to point out, the whole unit is more important than the individual players.
Do you not think they're better without him?
Today. Do you not think they're better without him?
I think he's...
Come on.
In the starting 11? No, I wouldn't say that.
I think they're better without him, right?
I think they can't carry him.
Would you hang your hat more so on even...
So how has Manchester United's collective unit got on since Ronaldo left?
Do you not think they're better without him? Today. Do you not think they're better without him?
I think he's...
Come on.
In the starting 11? No, I wouldn't say that.
I think they're better without him, right?
I think they can't carry him.
Would you hang your hat more so on even...
Before we get too off topic here, let's point out that no player has scored as many goals in a single Premier League season for United since Ronaldo left as he did in the 2021-2022 season. I think Graham Souness put it best when he said,
Listen, in 5 years' time, Ten Hag will be away from United and no one will talk about him at Man United.
Would you not behave like Ten Hag?
But in 5 years' time, no one will remember Ten Hag. But what Ronaldo remembered as arguably the greatest player that's ever kicked a football.
Great.
I still look back on it and I'm surprised at how fickle football fans can be. He's a club legend who returned to the club when he had much better offers on the table, who in the previous season had won the most Premier League Player of the Month awards, most Manchester United Player of the Month awards, United's Player of the Year, their top goal scorer, and was included in the Premier League Team of the Year from the previous season. The Premier League Team of the Year, as in the best 11 players in the Premier League from that season. Doing all that at 36, the disrespect to not even start the next season is crazy. To be completely fair, there were some people who saw through this rubbish and knew that the problems at United went far further than Ronaldo being old.
Give enough back at the moment. No, he does not give enough back at the moment. He doesn't.
He scores a goal every 2 games. He scores a goal every 2 games for Man United.
It doesn't.
He does. Do you want the stats?
Yeah, but
he scores a goal every 2 games.
It's also important to point out that while media pundits and in-the-know sports journalists wanted to paint it in a certain way at the time, it's interesting to hear what Manchester United players who were actually in the squad then have to say about it now.
No, I can't speak a bad word about him. It was amazing to have him and just walk through the door was just incredible. It was just so disappointing how it ended and how we couldn't find a way to perform with him in the team. He was performing. He was scoring goals. It was crazy. I don't know how many he scored that year. He was rubbish and he was still scoring goals. So it just shows how good he is.
Some people like to make it out that Ronaldo deserves this treatment because he's got too much of an ego or that he isn't humble enough on the pitch. Now, I'm not going to argue that Ronaldo is a humble guy.
Well, no, who's the best player in the world ever?
For me, the best player in the world ever, Diego Maradona. Me.
Maybe someone's don't like me, but because maybe I'm too good. I don't know why.
It is interesting to me though how people expect a high-level sportsman not to act this way. All the best sportsmen deep down think that they're the best, including Messi. I want to talk about a moment I think that sums up most of this. During the Euros in 2024, Portugal had topped their group and they were set to play Slovenia in the last 16. It's clear that Ronaldo is not in his prime at this stage of his career, but he was still giving it all for his country. This game was a cagey affair, and with the score at 0-0 after 90, in extra time an opportunity presented itself for Ronaldo to make up for not taking earlier chances in the game with a penalty. It was clear to see that the way he was playing in the match and his inability to convert the penalty had really upset Ronaldo. The game went to penalties and Ronaldo did convert his, but most thought this performance was emblematic of an inevitable decline. The pressure of it all, a lifetime of proving people wrong, and now he has to come to terms with the fact he might not be able to do it anymore. Make no mistake, we were witnessing a man have a crisis of character in the middle of such an important game for his country. So let's see what the BBC had to say about all this. Yep, Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm not trying to make this a defund the BBC or act like this is the craziest thing that's ever been said about a sports person. And I'm also not trying to make the point that there wasn't an appropriate level of backlash in the media for this.
You probably saw the pictures of the BBC with a caption generated, Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, that must be a 12-year-old caption writer who's doing
that, though?
It was absolutely outrageous and disrespectful to a man who, let's be honest, he's achieved so much in the game, has been a wonderful player, still is a wonderful player in some people's eyes.
But I do think this raises an interesting question. I want you to try and imagine any other player in world football who, if they missed a penalty like this and had such a large emotional reaction like this, the BBC would put a disrespectful caption over it. It's not even that it happened, it's that whoever it was that wrote it thought that it would be received well. The action itself is not the big issue, it's the fact the action was carried out with the assumption that it's okay to do something like this to Ronaldo. Following the backlash, the BBC responded by saying that no offence was intended and the tone was consistently respectful towards him. So if this was a channel or show which didn't normally cover sports, I could maybe at a push believe that it was only a play on words. But in my mind, there's no way that someone working on the production team for Match of the Day doesn't know that Ronaldo is a name used to demean Ronaldo. Look, I can't prove that, but I personally think it's a fair assumption to make here. Even places like ESPN, that you'd think wouldn't have any real bias in this debate, just seem weirdly averse to Ronaldo. Like, look at these two titles of YouTube videos from ESPN. Not a big deal, Craig Burley not impressed by Cristiano Ronaldo's 2 goals versus Armenia. Lionel Messi still has that genius in him, Ali Moreno. Let me make clear that Venezuela are a better team than Armenia. However, they aren't world beaters. But you know who are? Argentina, the team Messi plays for. To be even more clear, I actually have no issue with this title about Messi at all. But this title about Ronaldo just feels weird. What would he have to do in the game to get a positive review after? His role in the team at this stage is a poacher and he scored 2 goals. What more do you want? What about online? What kind of content can you expect when it comes to football online?
If you want to gas up Cristiano Ronaldo as being the GOAT, bruv, he will never be the GOAT. He's not even top 50. I've gone viral before for saying he ain't top 50 players of all time, because these men say, oh, he's the top. When we're talking about GOAT footballers, actual elite footballers, if you actually watch Eden Hazard and think that Ronaldo is better, you're tapped. Yeah. If you watch Zidane, Ronaldinho, R9, fucking Pirlo, Bergkamp, Zola, Cantona, Scholes, and I could name fucking shit. I could probably name 500, mate. Yeah. If you think he's better than some of these men, I'm sorry, he ain't. Yeah, he ain't.
Yeah, Ronaldo turned in to just a stat padder.
Good luck to him. Well done. When he was at Man United in 08, was it 08? Yeah, 08, 09. Then cool, he was fantastic. He then went to Madrid and was good for a year or 2 years, and then he just went, nah, sod this, I want to catch Messi. Sorry, mate, but Neymar's a better footballer than Ronaldo all day long.
The way that people talk about this guy, you would think he's actually evil or something. While no one deserves this level of abuse, it's also important to note that behind the scenes, there's a lot of good things Ronaldo has done you've probably never heard about. In 2012, a 9-year-old boy who'd been battling brain cancer called Nuhazet from the Canary Islands came to visit Cristiano Ronaldo and the other Real Madrid players as a final wish. Doctors had told him that his cancer had spread and nothing more could be done. After meeting the boy, Ronaldo and his agent paid for Nuhazet to receive further treatment in Madrid. In 2014, Ronaldo showed up to the World Cup sporting an unusual hairstyle. The Z through Ronaldo's hair would come to be mocked and ridiculed online, especially after a disappointing result against the USA. What most people don't know is that there may have been another reason for this outlandish hairstyle. Ronaldo had been asked to donate a pair of football boots to help fundraise for a 10-month-old Spanish boy, Eric Ortiz, who was suffering from cortical dysplasia. It was widely reported that Ronaldo offered to pay for the boy's treatment in full. It's not clear whether or not this actually happened. Some posts claim that Eric Ortiz's mum, Chris Cruz, posted saying that Ronaldo had offered to pay for the treatment, but it was not actually required in the end. Regardless of which explanation is true, both include Ronaldo offering to pay for this boy's treatment in full. Ronaldo's been a regular blood donor for over a decade, and partnered with Abbott to encourage young people to become blood donors. This is also the reason Ronaldo doesn't have any tattoos, so he can continue to donate blood. In 2015, he topped the Telegraph's list for the most charitable sports people in the world. During a 2015 interview at a promotional event in Japan, a young boy had learned some Portuguese to speak to Ronaldo. The crowd in attendance found his attempts to speak Portuguese funny, but Ronaldo was quick to defend the boy.
Why they smile? Why? You speak good Portuguese. Very good. They should be happy because he tried very hard. It's good.
In 2017, Ronaldo sold a replica of his 2013 Ballon d'Or at auction for €600,000 and gave the proceeds to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Lastly in this section, remember at the start of this video I had a really long introduction about how what gets results is more important than how it looks? Well, guess who actually agrees with that opinion?
Yeah, but what made you change?
Because I realized that the goals for our positions, it's more important than fucking step overs. It's chapters that you have in your life and you realize that things that you do, it doesn't worth it anymore or worth it less. And I start to realize that to win important things and win Champions League and golden balls and golden boots, you have to score goals.
The Ballon d'Or. Right, let's get through this quickly. As you all probably know, Messi has 8 Ballon d'Ors won in these years, while Ronaldo has 5 Ballon d'Ors won in these years. Now, I could go through these year by year and explain why I don't particularly value this as an award, but I think it would be better to start with the 2019 Ballon d'Or. I'm going to say something that may shock you here. I don't think Ronaldo should have won the Ballon d'Or in 2019. I know, Messi fanboys probably didn't think someone like me was even capable of a thought like that. But it's true. 2019 was the season where Ronaldo definitely had a dip in form compared to his previous 3 years of crazy performance. Ronaldo received 476 points in 2019 in a season where realistically he shouldn't have even received 200. How many points did Ronaldo receive in 2018 when he helped Real to complete the UCL three-peat? 478. He received nearly the exact same amount of points, even though his performance that year wasn't nearly as good. So why did he receive 476 points in 2019? Because the Ballon d'Or is a popularity contest. Anyone remember Will Grigg, the Wigan striker who had that chant in 2016? He came 25th in the Ballon d'Or in 2016. Bearing in mind this man played in League One in England and didn't play 1 minute for Northern Ireland at the Euros. But I'm sure this nomination, which put him joint with Paul Pogba as the 25th best player in Europe, had nothing to do with media attention. This becomes important in years like 2019, where Messi beat out Virgil van Dijk by 7 points. Van Dijk earned every single one of his 679 points and was the correct winner of this award in my mind in 2019. In my opinion, a sizable portion of Messi's 686 points were given to him simply because his name is Lionel Messi. Just like a sizable portion of Ronaldo's were given to him because his name is Cristiano Ronaldo. People talk about robbery in the Ballon d'Or a lot, but this is by far and away the largest robbery I've ever seen in this award. Van Dijk was the best player of this year, and he should have been recognised as such. So how does the Ballon d'Or voting even work? Up until 2006, the voting for the Ballon d'Or included votes by journalists exclusively. During the years between 2006 and 2015, coaches and international managers were also able to vote, but this changed back to just journalists in 2016. The award used to cover the calendar year, but in 2022 was changed to cover the football season from August to July. The way the award is voted for nowadays is that one journalist from the top 100 FIFA-ranked nations votes for their top 10 footballers of the year from a list of 30 nominees who are decided on by a number of journalists from France Football and L'Equipe. So in the time period that we're talking about, you have football journalists from most countries around the world voting for who they believe to be the best player. When I was researching this video, I came across this clip of YouTuber Thogden on Ben Foster's podcast.
From that. Unreal. You know, I might have a vote on the Ballon d'Or next year. Now, don't get me wrong. Of course, I'm not going to get the England one, but we half live in Montenegro, and like every summer we go out there for two months. They have some random geezer who does it. Like, it's not.
What does he do?
He gets 1/50th vote on who wins the Ballon d'Or.
What?
Yes, it's done on journalists, and they get one per nation, and there's like 50-something countries that do it. So I may have a vote. I've written to L'Equipe and I said, can I represent Montenegro next year? And they're basically considering it. And
you've written to L'Equipe? Incredible.
Yeah. No, the guys responded. I mentioned their like main editor on Instagram, and he's like, yeah, you can do it. So I think I'm going to be Montenegro's vote, which means I have 1/50th choice of who's going to be the GOAT. And it's going to be Leo Messi, guys. And there's nothing you can do about it, Ronaldo fans. I'm getting Messi on the Ballon d'Or.
Give him hate.
So I ended up going down a bit of a Thogden rabbit hole here. If you don't know Thogden, he's a pretty popular YouTuber in the UK who made his name from filming himself going in person to football matches and reacting to the games and the atmospheres. I watched his reaction to the Ballon d'Or ceremony for 2024 when Rodri took home the award, and it made for some interesting viewing.
Disgrace! There is not a single, I'm actually guys, please let me know in the comments. How can you don't... Vinicius Jr., Champions League final, La Liga, the main man, the goal scorer. I literally told him. Can someone tell me? Rodri, I understand he won the Nations League or maybe the Euros against England and maybe okay, he didn't win the Champions League, the most important thing in club football. I'm getting mad because, truthfully, someone tell me in the comments, how can anybody give this to Rodri? Erling Haaland and Man City attended the Ballon d'Or ceremony last year and showed respect to the winner when Lionel Messi... Yeah, but that's Messi. This is a Ballon d'Or that was up for grabs for anyone. If this is the Ballon d'Or, right, and Messi takes it, everybody in the world goes, fair enough. But this year it's not about Messi or Ronaldo.
So I was going to make a section here talking about how it's crazy that France Football allowed a guy like this to have a vote in the Ballon d'Or. The only problem is he didn't. He tweeted things like this, which suggested he did in fact have a vote. Realising that this was easily checkable, I went to the official results, and unless Thogden's name is actually Danilo Mitrovic and not Theo Ogden, as I found from a quick Google search, then no, he did not actually vote in the Ballon d'Or. Yes, this could have been cut from the video. Yes, I'm annoyed I watched this much Thogden content for seemingly nothing. One thing that did come through though was what he said about the representative of Montenegro who has the Ballon d'Or vote.
They have some random geezer who does it.
Describing him as some random geezer fits nicely into an important point about the people who vote for these awards. Who are they? No, seriously. We make it out that these people have the complete final say in who's the best player in the world, when for the most part you've probably never heard of a single person on the voting panel. So let's have a look and see who we collectively decided as a footballing community are the best for making up this elite panel. Hafiz Marakar has made the news in the past number of years, and by made the news I mean a few Sport Bible articles. He became known for his rather outlandish Ballon d'Or picks in the late 2010s. Bonucci in 2017, Hazard in 2018, and Trent Alexander-Arnold in 2019. I had a look into the articles he posts, and it seems to mostly be coverage of football, cricket, and rugby within the city of Kandy in Sri Lanka. I'm not pointing this out to rag on a man's work. Local sports journalism is extremely important for a historic record as well as the media of that locality. However, when deciding on apparently the most important individual award a footballer can win, it's probably not the best measure. Let's look at a different person then. What about Victor Druso of Andorra? He seems to write the sports stories for Bondia, an Andorran media outlet. His articles again cover all kinds of sports, including basketball, athletics, cycling, gymnastics. Again, I can't stress enough how this isn't a dig at his personal work. More of a way of pointing out that it's a bit silly how he gets to have a say in this kind of decision. Ricardo Koch of Aruba. Could not find an article or any information about this person at all online. When I typed in Abdullah Ashur Bahrain into Google and selected the news tab, an article about the dangers of manhole cover thefts was the top option. Let's try Benin, who I might add are in the FIFA Top 100 currently, and so will still have a vote in the new system. Their guy Abdul Fattah Sani seems to be an absolute workhorse. He seemingly writes every sports article for the newspaper La Nación, including stories related to boxing, volleyball, beach volleyball, handball, beach handball, tambourine ball game, and of course, football. I'm literally just going through these journalists from top to bottom, and I've only gotten to B, and it's becoming abundantly clear that Thogden may have actually been correct. Well, partially. These guys are journalists. They do journalism. However, when it comes to being on a panel that decides an award like this, the phrase "some random geezer" actually isn't 100 miles from the truth. I think French football knew this themselves, which is why they've implemented the rule where now only the top 100 countries in the FIFA rankings can actually vote. Presumably countries with a large enough football scene to have journalists dedicated to only coverage of football. For the sake of our discussion though, it must be taken into account that all but one of Messi and Ronaldo's Ballon d'Ors took place at the time where every country's random geezer got to vote. It's crazy how important it is to players to win this award when the selection committee is so random. There's a guy in Benin writing about tambourine ball game right now who you're allowing to have a say in who you believe is the best player of all time. It'd be better if it was Thogden, to be honest. Another thing that hit the news in the past in relation to the Ballon d'Or selectors was when Uzbekistani's nominee, Grigory Ritsavalds, I can't pronounce that name, voted for Mbappe, Mason Mount, Messi, Chiellini and Kevin De Bruyne in 2021. This was the year a lot of people thought Lewandowski should have had a look in, so someone messaged him and asked why he didn't have Lewandowski in his top 5. And do you know what he said? He is not fast enough and he doesn't do skills in real life. He then sent a picture of his FIFA card with his pace circled and said, also he hasn't won anything with Germany. Now when I first saw this, I instantly thought it was fake. I actually considered whether it was even worth fact checking, it looked so fake. But apparently it's real? There's an article from kun.uz which covers it and it doesn't say it's fake. And a lot of people from a Reddit thread I looked up about this all say it's legit. I mean, it could still be fake. But I went on his Instagram and unsurprisingly the underbelly of society were giving him abuse in the comments of his posts. But he never denied it. Unless I've missed it, he never denies that this is an actual text interaction he had. Obviously don't go and give this guy abuse. If you do, you're a loser. In 2021, when Ronaldo did not attend the Ballon d'Or ceremony, France Football's editor-in-chief before the ceremony announced to the world that Ronaldo's only ambition was to win more Ballon d'Ors than Messi, and that Ronaldo had told him this himself. Ronaldo replied to this in an Instagram post where he said, Pascal Ferry lied. He used my name to promote himself and to promote the publication he works for. It is unacceptable that the person responsible for awarding such a prestigious prize could lie in this way, in absolute disrespect for someone who has always respected France football and the Ballon d'Or. And he lied again today, justifying my absence from the gala with an alleged quarantine that has no reason to exist. Following this, at the awards ceremony itself, the organisers of the award decided to show a picture of Didier Drogba and Cristiano Ronaldo in their underpants on the big screen. As you've probably realised yourself, we've already covered this, so stick around for the extra bit of context, but if you don't want it, then you can skip to this timestamp. The picture was taken as a promotion for the 2010 World Cup, more than a decade previously. The relevance being, it was shoehorned in beside a segment with Cannavaro where they showed a Vanity Fair cover of him topless also. Look, I'm not trying to say that this is something that was thrown randomly on Drogba mid-ceremony, even if his Oscar-worthy performing suggests as such. The point I'm trying to make here is, I want you to ask yourself the question, if Ronaldo had attended the ceremony, and if he wasn't in such a large, ongoing dispute with the organiser, would this segment still exist? I'd argue, no. So at the expense of Cannavaro being a guest at the ceremony and one of their presenters in Drogba, the Ballon d'Or managed to show disrespect to Ronaldo for not attending and calling out a lie by the organiser. Not a good look. Then there's awards like FIFA's Men's The Best Award. When looking through the nominees for the 2024 edition, there's one notable entry. You have guys like Bellingham, who scored a bicycle kick to keep his nation in the Euros before they got to the final, and he won the Champions League with Real Madrid. Or Florian Wirtz, who at just 21 years old bagged 18 goals and 20 assists for Bayer Leverkusen as they sailed a historic double in Germany over the traditional powers of Bayern and Dortmund. Then you obviously have the top two from the Ballon d'Or rankings for that year, Vinicius and Rodri. And then there's Messi. 2024 Inter Miami Messi. What do they even write to justify this? Here's exactly what they wrote. Inter Miami won the 2024 Supporters' Shield, the Copa America, and he finished top goal scorer in the 2026 World Cup qualifying. Okay, that sounds unreasonable, but it's not crazy. I have to say, I'm not exactly up to speed with all these things, so let's look into them, shall we? So starting with the Supporters' Shield. Seems to be a trophy given to the team with the best regular season record at the end of the year. To the European mind, this is winning the league, the best result of any league-based competition. However, this is American soccer ball, and the regular season doesn't mean much on the other side of the Atlantic. Now I could sit here and tell you about how much it doesn't matter that Messi and Inter Miami won this title, and that all that matters in the MLS is the MLS Cup, but why should I when I can just direct you to this article that says, Supporters' Shield is nothing if Messi doesn't win the MLS Cup. Cody Aceveda is a writer who seems to focus on the Premier League and the MLS. Here he points out that teams which win this competition love to claim that it actually means something, but the only thing anyone ever remembers from each season is who wins the MLS Cup. Inter Miami were beaten in the first round of the MLS Cup by Atalanta United, the lowest ranked team in the competition by points secured in the league phase. Inter Miami were the first seed from their league, and they lost to the worst team that qualified from the other conference. Oh, and in case you've forgotten from when I mentioned it earlier in this video, Messi didn't even play half the games in this league season to contribute to this win. So that's the Supporters' Shield covered. Now, what about the Copa America in 2024? Yes, we did cover this also in the previous sections. For the benefit of everyone, I'm going to repeat myself as little as possible, but in summary, he missed a penalty, scored once against Canada, and didn't play the whole final through injury. So, in my opinion, in order for this nomination to be justified, these 6 goals in World Cup qualifying need to be good. In 2024, Argentina faced Chile, Colombia, Venezuela, Bolivia, Paraguay and Peru. 6 goals for 6 games. Great. So how did these 6 goals spread out? Wait. 3 goals against Bolivia and... where's the other 3? Oh, I see. The wording here says finished the year as top goal scorer, and I can see here that there were actually some qualifiers in 2023. This really has to beg the question why Ronaldo wasn't nominated with the most goals of any active player at 893. I mean, I know he only scored 51 of them across the time period this award covers, but still. In all seriousness though, looking at this as a realist, Messi was nominated here for scoring a goal against Canada, scoring 3 goals against Bolivia, and his team winning a cup no one in America even cares about, before losing in the first meaningful round after. And he also didn't even play half the games that led to them getting the shield. Another player could have had this exact season and would be lucky to get a Team of the Week card on FIFA. I think the craziest thing is that some people just won't let it go. During the Club World Cup that I talked about in the domestic career section, some people were saying that if Messi won this competition, then this would pave the way for another Ballon d'Or win. In 2025, playing in the MLS to win the Ballon d'Or. Even recently, I've seen posts talking about how many goal contributions Messi has in the MLS this season, and that he's on the charge for another Ballon d'Or. People seem to forget that in 2023, no player in the world scored more goals than Cristiano Ronaldo. No one. But do I think Ronaldo should win the Ballon d'Or for scoring 1 million goals in the Saudi League? No. I'm also aware that the accounts saying things like this are probably just saying it because it drives interactions, but that won't prevent me from pointing out how stupid it is. Like, some of these accounts would probably claim to be reputable sources for football information, and they're unashamedly tweeting things like this. And I know, I said I wasn't going to do this, but when you look at something like the Lewandowski situation, you just have to feel bad for the guy. Seems like he doesn't have a clue what he had to do to win it either.
Well, apart from doing skills in real life and winning something with Germany.
Because I don't know now what is much more important. Like the FIFA, the best players, that I have to say that is more fair.
Just the
two
of those,
that's more, commercial.
The Ballon d'Or that should have been yours, every football person.
Which one?
How do you view that? Is there any part of you that still wishes that had been in your hands?
Of course, I was in the best moment in my career. I won everything with club, individual as well. I think that the difficult things in that case is that till now I don't know why. Nobody can understand the situation. Yeah, it's like part of the football, part of something, some politics.
Honestly, I could sit here and break down how Haaland was robbed in 2023, how Lewandowski was robbed in 2021, how Van Dijk was robbed in 2019, but to be honest, I don't really care. In so much as someone who makes a video on Ronaldo versus Messi can not care about this topic, I don't value the Ballon d'Or when it comes to matters like this. When you really think about who you believe to be the greatest footballer of all time, a subjective matter, don't allow someone else to make the decision for you. Especially when you find out that this group of people may not be any more informed than you are yourself. So choose Ronaldo, choose Messi, choose Bonucci, choose Trent Alexander-Arnold. Just make sure it's your choice and you can stand behind it based on what you've seen that year. Let me ask you a question. What moments from sports get you out of your seat? Live in your mind on replay for years. The type of moments you watch sports for in the first place. I don't think it's any wonder that people remember moments like Cleveland's 3-1 comeback in the finals versus Golden State.
With a huge win on the road, take a commanding 3-1 lead in these NBA finals. It's final seconds. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Or when Djokovic did this.
And that's it. On a massive miss hit, Wimbledon #5 for the Serbian superstar.
Or Alcaraz did this. When great sportsmen and sportswomen have their backs against the wall and it's do or die, that's when, in my opinion, you see the measure of a player. I think being clutch is an X factor that can go overlooked in football sometimes. It's not like in American sports where showing up in the championship game means everything. In European sports, winning a league title like the Premier League is still seen as a great achievement, even if you didn't quite get over the line in the biggest championship matches. But there's just something about knockout competitions. Games where you can't hold back. Can't rest players for the next week, because if you lose, there is no next week. Games where each mistake can be fatal and each goal scored is vital. I'd be willing to bet that most of your favourite football moments have come in knockout games. Sure, there's been some great moments like Aguero's winner to win the league, City's comeback against Villa and Cristambul over the years, but I think the 2019 Champions League season had more crazy moments than all of that combined. Also, most of those crazy moments from league football are so memorable because they're at the end of the season where it's do or die, kinda like knockout football. I think that the best place to start here is to revisit the Real Madrid Champions League three-peat of 2016 to 2018. I think for anyone who was around to watch these runs, I don't need to explain how clutch Ronaldo was for Real Madrid when things got tough, but to name a few examples. In 2015-2016, Real Madrid lost the first leg of their quarter-final versus Wolfsburg 2-0. In the return leg, Ronaldo had Madrid level after 20 minutes and won the tie with this free kick.
Cristiano Ronaldo. Beautiful! Beautiful!
In the final of that same season, Ronaldo stepped up to hit the 5th penalty in the shootout and made no mistake with all the pressure on his shoulders to deliver the trophy.
Ronaldo to win the Champions League. And he does do! Real Madrid have won the Champions League!
In 2016-2017, Bayern were putting up an impressive fight to topple Real Madrid, who were at home in the second leg of their quarter-final tie. Ronaldo scored a hat-trick in the match right when his team needed the goals the most, and they progressed after extra time.
Away. That's terrific. That's Ronaldo. That's the tie.
Across the two legs, Ronaldo scored 5 goals against the German champions. In the very next round, he scored a hat-trick versus Atletico Madrid.
Casemiro can send it back in! And it's off Godin, Ronaldo. The chance for Ronaldo, and of course, pulls it back. Here's Ronaldo for the hat-trick!
He also scored 2 goals in the final versus Juventus, one to put Real ahead and set the tone, and a second to finish the job. When Real went 1-0 down against French champions PSG in the last 16 of the 2018 season, Ronaldo hit the next 2 goals to put Real Madrid back in front and scored the first goal on the return leg to ensure his side's safe passage to the quarter-finals. In the quarter-final first leg versus Italian champions Juventus, again Ronaldo scored twice and got his side ahead in the tie, including possibly his most famous goal. The very next game in the Champions League, Juventus managed to stage what would have been an incredible comeback by going 3-0 ahead at the Santiago Bernabeu before giving away a penalty in the dying minutes of the game. Ronaldo stepped up, and I'll let the commentator take it from here.
Here comes Ronaldo, and he scores! Of course he scores! The greatest player in the history of Real Madrid, the finest goal scorer in the history of the Champions League, with ice running through his veins.
In these 3 seasons, Ronaldo scored 43 Champions League goals. At the time of recording this video, according to the UEFA website, this would put him 21st all time for Champions League goals scored in a career. He did this over 3 seasons. This is the same number as Neymar scored in his whole career. Other notable examples of clutch from Ronaldo include: in 2005, Manchester United travelled to Highbury to play Arsenal. This Arsenal side, who had gone unbeaten in the Premier League in the previous season, they were 2-1 down in the second half, and Ronaldo scored twice and shushed the Arsenal fans. In the 2007 Champions League quarter-final, United lost 2-1 to Roma. Ronaldo scored 2 goals and got 1 assist in the second leg. In the 2009 Champions League campaign, Manchester United drew with Inter Milan in the last 16 first leg, and Ronaldo scored in the second leg to ensure safe passage to the quarter-final versus Porto. Again, the first leg ended as a draw, and United would have to go to Porto and get a result. That's when Ronaldo did this.
Ronaldo, long way out. What a goal! Not too far out for him. What a night.
Some people may think this is grasping at straws or isn't that impressive, so remind me again, how many times in Messi's career did he score or assist in the second leg of a Champions League match whenever he lost or drew the first leg at home? Once, with a dagger to close the gap to 5-2 on aggregate against PSG in 2021. Ronaldo also had a pretty decent semi-final of the Champions League that season too.
Too far for Ronaldo to think about it. Oh! Ronaldo can break. Decent part. Rooney's got some space to his left. Here is Wayne Rooney. Ronaldo's getting up with him. Rooney has found Ronaldo. How about that?
In 2013, Real Madrid drew at home to Manchester United 1-1, and Ronaldo scored in the away leg to take the tie and progress. In the Copa del Rey in 2013, Real Madrid drew 1-1 with Barcelona at home. Ronaldo scored twice in the return leg away from home to make it to the final. In the Spanish Super Cup of 2012, Real Madrid lost the first leg 3-2. Ronaldo scored in the second leg to help Real Madrid win 2-1 and progress on away goals.
For a second here, Cristiano Ronaldo takes his time, still got time, 2-0!
In 2014, Portugal came second in their World Cup qualifying group to Russia and so had to play a qualification match to even get to Brazil. I know it's hard to believe that this world-beating Portugal squad didn't top this group, but here we are. So Portugal would play Sweden over 2 legs to see who would go to the World Cup. In the first leg, Ronaldo scored the only goal to put Portugal 1-0 up. He also scored the first goal of the second leg, and Portugal seemed to be cruising. Zlatan Ibrahimovic had other ideas though, and scored 2 goals to level the tie. Under the pressure of missing out in a major tournament for the first time, Ronaldo scored twice to take his country to the World Cup.
It's 2 goals they need, but it's a chance for Ronaldo again, hat-trick! He has written his name all over this tie.
I also found this while looking through that very qualification campaign. 65 minutes into the second half, Portugal trailed 2-1 to Northern Ireland. It took a 15-minute second half hat-trick from Ronaldo to defeat Northern Ireland. But again, people would have you believe Portugal have been world beaters his whole career. In Euro 2016, Portugal played Hungary in their last group game. At 3 times in the match, Portugal would be eliminated if the score stayed as it was. Ronaldo scored twice and assisted a third to help Portugal get out of the group in a tournament they ultimately won. In the 2018 World Cup group stage, Portugal faced Spain. Coming into the last minutes, the score was 3-2 to Spain. Ronaldo had already scored twice in the game and had this free kick to level the match. Ronaldo was so clutch at this stage, people expected him to score. This was the reaction of major sporting pundits in Spain.
Se perfila el futbolista portugués. Ahí va Cristiano, pierna derecha, le pega Cristiano. ¡Golazo de Cristiano Ronaldo! ¡Qué golazo acá!
Wait, don't we know this guy? When Ronaldo moved to Juventus in 2018, they faced Atletico Madrid in the Champions League last 16 in his first season. After going 2-0 down in the first leg, things didn't look good for Ronaldo and Juventus. Diego Simeone's Atletico side were known for being extremely difficult to score against. Since their rise to power in European competitions at the start of the 2010s, Atletico had only conceded 3+ goals in the Champions League on 2 occasions, and their fans knew it.
Cristiano, ¿qué? Ahora 5 y a dormir, ¿eh? Cristiano 5, ¿qué?
Llorar, a llorar, a Turín, a llorar. Ya está, 2-0, ni manita ni nada, 2-0 y fuera.
What followed was poetic.
In from Bernardeschi, Ronaldo! At the start of this second half, lifted in towards Ronaldo. What a save, Ronaldo on the follow-up. All kinds of appeals.
It's in.
To put this into context, Jan Oblak has only conceded 5 hat-tricks in his whole career. 3 of them against Ronaldo. 2 of these in Champions League knockout stages. It's also the only hat-tricks conceded by Oblak as an Atletico Madrid player. In World Cup qualifying, Portugal trailed the Republic of Ireland 1-0 in the last minute, and Ronaldo had to score twice to snatch the 3 points. Keep in mind, Portugal came second in the group in the end and had to go through the qualifiers. In the 2021 Champions League, Manchester United benefited from Ronaldo's goals to bail them out in multiple games. United topped the group but would not have even qualified for the knockout stages without Ronaldo's goals. As mentioned earlier in the video, he scored important goals when Portugal were facing elimination in the quarter-final, semi-final and final of the Nations League. Gary Neville has this segment on his show where he asks ex-players if they had a penalty to save their lives, who would they want taking it? Guess who some of them said?
You've got a last-minute penalty for your life, who do you want on it?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
No hesitation there, was there?
No. Last-minute penalty to save my life, Cristiano. 100%.
Have you ever seen Cristiano miss one?
Not many.
Not many, eh?
No.
I would say him.
I thought you might have gone for yourself.
No.
Both of these players are strikers and neither of them said me. This is clutch. There's also probably plenty of examples that I'm forgetting, so let me know in the comments if there's any that you remember that I've forgotten. There's certainly been a few games in Messi's career that I'm sure he'd want back. I think people don't realise just how good this Barcelona team Messi played in was. So I'll try and make it clear with some stats. All stats that are about to be talked about are from the Champions League official website, except for the games where possession stats weren't provided, and I got those from ESPN. When Barcelona lost to Manchester United in the Champions League semi-final in 2008, they had 72% possession in the first leg and 62% possession away from home in the second leg. Over those 2 matches, Barcelona had 34 shots compared to Manchester United's 15, and they failed to score a single goal. When Barcelona lost to Inter Milan in the semi-final of the Champions League in 2010, they had 71% possession in the first leg and 86% possession in the second leg. Over the 2 legs, they had 30 shots compared to Inter's 10, and Inter Milan played most of the second leg with 10 men. When Barcelona lost to Chelsea in the Champions League semi-final in 2012, they had 72% possession away from home in the first leg and 73% possession in the second leg. Over the 2 legs, they had 36 shots compared to Chelsea's 11. Oh yes, and after peppering Chelsea for 120 minutes and still being behind, Barcelona were handed a lifeline in the second half of the second leg with a penalty. It would have been very difficult for Chelsea to find a way back if this had gone in. In 2013, Barcelona got battered 7-0 on aggregate by Bayern Munich, who were just a better team in the day, so there's no shame in that. But looking over the stats we've just covered, I think the point I'm trying to make is that people praise this Barcelona side for winning 2 Champions Leagues in 2009 and 2011. But really, breaking it down, they should have probably won 5 Champions Leagues in a row. I know games aren't always won by the better side. That's one of the things that makes football so great. I literally complained about people talking about XG and field tilt at the start of this video. However, I think for anyone who watched the 3 games I'm talking about above, you can agree that these games were just waiting for Barcelona to win them. Now let's compare this Barcelona team, who won 2 titles across 5 years, to Ronaldo's Madrid team of the 2010s, who did win 4 titles in 5 years. That's the difference. Even looking at the years after this, Barcelona probably should have beaten Atletico in the quarter-final of the 2013-2014 season. Then in 2016, a similar story again. 68% possession, 72% possession in the 2 legs, and 31 versus 16 attempts in a 3-2 aggregate loss to Atletico. Look at these stats. How do you lose this game 2-0? Also, Atletico played most of the first leg with 10 men. They played Juventus in the 2017 quarter-final stage. Again, majority of possession, 32 attempts across 2 legs, 0 goals. The opposite of clutch is to bottle, to have a commanding lead and let it slip by. The defeat against Roma in 2018 and Liverpool in 2019 are perfect examples of bottling. Don't get me wrong, that Liverpool team of 2019 were very good, and when I watched that second leg, it felt like Barcelona just couldn't get anything going at all. It's important to keep in mind though that Barcelona actually had more possession in that second leg, if you can believe it. They only needed 1 goal to virtually guarantee passage to the final, and they had enough of the ball to do it. Messi fans won't want to admit this, but drop 2016 to 2018 Ronaldo into that match and he scores. Against PSG in 2021, they were down 4-1 after the first leg and had a penalty just on half time. If Messi scores, they'll only need 2 goals in the second half against PSG, who were known to be bottlers. Messi then joined PSG and again missed a penalty in Paris. PSG lost this tie by 1 goal, 3-2, to the eventual winners of the Champions League that season, Real Madrid. Messi has been to 5 Copa America finals. He scored no goals and had no assists in all 5. He also missed a penalty to put them ahead in the 2016 final shootout. If the Copa America was played every 4 years like the Euros, he would be playing his 6th Copa America in 2027. He's already played 7 by 2025. It's important to keep in mind that if the Copa America was played every 4 years like the Euros and they didn't throw in extra tournaments like they did in 2016, then Messi would have only scored 2 goals in the Copa America between 2007 and 2021, both against Paraguay. Now, Messi was clutch at the World Cup in 2022. He just was. I'm not going to try and take away from a really good tournament performance, but 1 tournament win doesn't make him a clutch player for Argentina. He had 16 years to be clutch for Argentina before 2022. Remember when I said how impressive it was for Ronaldo to score away from home to win against Porto in the second leg whilst not being in a winning position after the first leg? How many times do you think Messi has scored a second leg goal away from home when his team wasn't already winning from the first leg? Twice. In his whole career, in 13 possible attempts. That's 15%. Ronaldo has 4 goals in second legs away from home against Barcelona alone when Real Madrid weren't winning after the first leg. He showed up in the second leg with a goal when his team needed him after not winning the first leg away from home 6 times in 10 chances. That's 60%. That means that if your team is in this position, having to go away from home with the game on a knife edge or being behind, Ronaldo was 4 times more likely to score in the game than Messi. Now I'm sure Messi has been clutch, and is a clutch player when you compare him to most others. I think that when taking over their entire career, Ronaldo's shown he's the more clutch player. He's more clutch, he's more flexible, he's achieved with a smaller nation, he doesn't need players around him to play a certain way for him to achieve. He's the greatest footballer of all time. Okay, so that's my argument. If you wanted to know why I personally believe that Ronaldo is the greatest player of all time, then you could stop the video right here. However, there are a number of other points that I've seen for Ronaldo being the better player, which if this was one of those YouTube iceberg videos, they'd be closer to the bottom. So I have to be careful here. I want to make clear that what I'm about to say is at the time of recording this video merely an allegation and is under current ongoing investigation. I'm not a person who understands the law particularly well and would encourage anyone interested to do their own research. I would like to reinforce, if people have forgotten, that our legal system functions on an innocent until proven guilty basis. In March of 2023, a number of former Barcelona presidents were accused of corruption following reports surfacing in February of that year that Barcelona had been making payments to a company belonging to Jose Maria Enriquez Negreira, former president of the Technical Committee of Referees, or CTA. According to this article by Catalan News, the letter submitted to the court accused Barca of having reached and maintained a strictly confidential verbal agreement with the accused Negreira so that, in his capacity as vice president of the CTA, and in exchange for money, he would carry out actions tending to favour FC Barcelona in the decision-making of the referees in matches that the club played, and thus in the results of competitions. Allegedly, Barcelona paid the company owned by Negreira €7.5 million from around 2001 to 2018. In this article by Catalan News, it's pointed out that Negreira said in his own testimony to tax authorities that the payments would ensure Barcelona games were officiated by neutral referees and that decisions were not made against the Catalan club. Barcelona have held firm in their position that they are not guilty of any wrongdoing. The latest update I could find on this was that Florentino Perez called it the biggest scandal in football history at a press conference recently, and Real Madrid have written to UEFA demanding that they continue their already started disciplinary proceedings for the case. So how does this all relate to this video? Well, if you look at the breakdown of league titles won between Messi and Ronaldo in the time period they were both in Spain, you see that Messi won the league with Barcelona on 6 occasions, Ronaldo won with Real Madrid on 2 occasions, and Atletico Madrid won the league in the 2013-2014 season. If we look at the margin of victory in the league across these seasons, you'll notice that apart from the 2012-2013 season and the 27-2018 season, a lot of these were extremely close. 1 point in 2015-2016, 2 points in 2014-2015, 3 points in 2016-2017, 3 points in 2009-2010, 4 points in 2010-2011. I'm well aware we're diving deep into conspiracy, so I'll lay out the facts and let you come to your own conclusions. Barcelona won these 4 league titles by less than 5 points each. Barcelona have allegedly paid a company owned by the former and at the time current president of the Technical Committee of Referees €7 million between 2001 and 2018. The guy who's the president of a body that assesses referees' performance and assigns referees. How would you feel about it if it came out that Man City had paid the English version of this person in the FA £7 million since 2001? I think that Liverpool fans would probably have a thing or two to say about that, but that's just my opinion. I sometimes see people try to discredit the Champions League three-peat by saying that Real Madrid benefited from favourable refereeing decisions across the 3 seasons. Many people point towards decisions like the penalty given in the last minute versus Juventus in 2018, or the offside goals versus Bayern Munich in 2017. 2 points on this. Number 1, this is a penalty. Number 2, I think most offside calls before VAR can be boiled down to human error, especially if the calls were very close. In the very game people complain about Ronaldo scoring offside goals versus Bayern Munich, Lewandowski looks to literally be offside for his goal for Bayern Munich. It's hard to find a good camera angle for this, but it seems very close. But if this is how you feel about it, then let's get into it. You want to try and take away from Ronaldo winning the Champions League 3 years in a row because of refereeing decisions? Okay, that's fine. Let's apply the same logic to Barcelona and see where we get to. Messi won the Champions League 4 times with Barcelona, but we're being harsh now, so there's absolutely no way I'm giving him 2006. What about 2009? Was there any controversial matches on Barcelona's run to the final that year? This match is so controversial, it has literally become a meme for people getting screwed over. I mean, look at the players after the game here. Have you ever seen a crash out like this from professional sportsmen? Okay, so that's 2006 and 2009. What about 2011? In the quarter-final that year, Barcelona played Arsenal and surprisingly lost the first leg 2-1. With about half an hour left, Arsenal were 3-2 ahead. Robin van Persie is put through on goal and shoots, but is just narrowly wide. Then the referee produces a second yellow card and he's off. What crime did he commit for this card, you ask? Kicking the ball away after the whistle. They did analysis after the game, and the time between the whistle being blown and him kicking the ball was about 1 second. Barcelona went on to score 2 goals in the last 30 minutes against 10 men and were through. Arsenal were left feeling scorned by what this Give Me Sport article describes as one of the most controversial sendings off in Champions League history. How often do you actually see players get this angry after a game?
And it was a total joke, the sending off, because how can I hear his whistle with 95,000 people jumping up? Yeah, how can I hear that, for God's sake? Please explain me that. This way, 1 second from his whistle till my shot is just a joke. And he's been bad all evening. He's been a joke all evening, whistling against us. So I don't know why he's here tonight, honestly. I think it's a joke.
This is 2 times in 2 different seasons where the opposition have struggled to maintain professionalism after playing Barcelona in the Champions League. Arsene Wenger, after the game, said, "It's not a surprise the referee didn't book a single Barcelona player. I just spoke to the UEFA people. They are shocked as well. He killed a promising, fantastic football match. What for?" And went on to say, "Even if he, Van Persie, heard the official, where have you seen a sending off like that? Of course all the Barcelona supporters and Spanish newspapers will, but I have never seen a decision like that. Even if I were to give it to Messi that he won the Champions League in 2006 as part of the squad, was this season devoid of controversy?" In the semi-final, Barcelona faced AC Milan. Milan had been beaten in heartbreaking fashion by Liverpool in the previous season. Going into the second leg, Barcelona led 1-0. Then came this moment in the second half of the second leg.
Non, faute auparavant. Ouais, ici, faute de Shevchenko. Qu'est-ce qu'il va faire?
Anyone want to point out why this goal was disallowed? Anyway, Barcelona won the match 1-0. The goal would have brought Milan extra time, but not to be. Even years when they didn't win, 2011 versus Inter Milan in the second leg, Inter Milan were reduced to 10 men for this challenge on Busquets. I think his own reaction says it all. Jose Mourinho has achieved a lot in his career, but still managing to see this game out and progress to the final has to be up there. Here's what he had to say after his Madrid side 1 year later lost 2-0 to Barcelona after going down to 10 men.
Termina mi carrera hoy. Y como no puedo decir lo que siento, dejo solo una pregunta que espero que un día conseguir la respuesta, que es ¿por qué? ¿Por qué? No sé si es el poder del señor Villar en UEFA, no sé si son muy simpáticos, no sé, no entiendo. Enhorabuena por un fantástico equipo de fútbol, que lo digo siempre, pero enhorabuena por todo lo que tiene también, que debe de ser muy difícil de conseguir. Ellos han conseguido este poder, los otros no tienen ninguna. Y si por acaso hacemos un gol ahí primero que el Barcelona y dejamos la eliminatoria un poquitino abierta, nos matan otra vez.
Finally, we have 2015. Nothing to say about this one. They were just better than everyone else they played. I will point out that Neymar had one of the greatest knockout performances in Champions League history that year. He's the only man before or since to score in both legs of the quarter-final, semi-final, as well as the final. So Messi's won the Champions League once, helped out by a once-in-a-generation knockout run by Neymar. Glad we could clear that one up. Being serious, I'm not interested in fighting strawman arguments. I just know there was going to be a group of people commenting about this in particular because I bring up the UCL three-peat so often, so I thought I'd clear it up. So here we are, the end.
The end. The end. Make sense of that.
If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like. I have a few ideas for future videos and it would be nice to know there are people who'd want to watch them. Also, if you wanted to subscribe to the channel, I'd greatly appreciate it. I can't promise consistent uploading at the moment. I have a pretty demanding day job, so I just do this in my limited spare time, but will be keen to make more videos. When it comes to the GOAT debate, everyone will have their own reasons for supporting one person over another. Trying to find an objective answer to something inherently subjective isn't how I believe this type of thing should work. When it comes to football, I think what we value as players and fans is determined by our experience both on and off the pitch. For me anyways, there's never been anyone greater than the little boy from Madeira who worked like no one else and never compromised on his dreams to be the best.